Actually, I'm going to stop sharing. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. No need to be shy in this call. Really fantastic. We're just going to wait for a few people to come in. And on a Monday morning, you've come to see me. How fab is that? Because I know what Monday mornings are like on campus. Crazy. So we're currently at 21. And are there anyone else waiting, Tamsin, to come in?
There's nobody waiting currently. I'll let them in as and when they join, Melissa.
Let them in, yeah, more people are joining. So, is Amy on the call and is Gordon on the call? You both are fab. Good register call in. Don't know, is Gordon here?
I mean,
yes, that was Gordon. That was Gordon. Fab. Okay, let's get going. Hi everyone, my name's Melissa Brown and I'm the Deputy Director of Commercial Services and Estates. However, the job that I love more than anything, please don't tell my boss, is that I'm on the CUBO board and I'm the CUBO lead for learning and development. And today we're here to talk about the mentoring scheme. I'm just going to now share my screen with the presentation. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. Ooh. I'm so sorry. Wait 1 sec. It's not moving. Oh, just a bit of technical difficulty. Right, that's better. Can you see that?
I think you need to share again.
Yeah, very strange. Let's go down and find it.
Yeah, I've got that now.
Can you see a full screen or can you see what I can see?
No, we've got the normal presentation screen.
Fantastic. And if I press that, yay, does that move?
Yep.
Fab. Okay, so thank you for being here, everyone. I promise you, I do know how to use Teams and to share a document, but I have a feeling that a mentor I'll be asking for today is maybe someone in the IT department. That's obviously what I need. And I'm thrilled to be here today to discuss the CUBO mentoring scheme with you. It's an initiative that's in its 3rd year, and really it's there to foster growth and professional development amongst our commercial and campus professionals, our members. And mentoring plays a really critical role in career progression. And today we'll be exploring those benefits, how it works, and how you can participate. Now, as you can see, there's quite a lot of things to go through, and we're going to have an opportunity where we're going to hear from 2 wonderful people about what it was like being a CUBO mentor, what it was like being a mentee, and also I can speak about my experiences too. And at the end, it says questions, but if at any point through here you do have some questions, please put them in the chat because we'll pick them up. And definitely when we're speaking to Amy and Gordon, we'll make sure there's a moment for you to ask questions. So the mentoring scheme was launched in 2022 and it's a free service for the CUBO members, and it aims to support the career development, enhance leadership potential and provide insight into the sector. This initiative also serves as a platform to build meaningful professional relationships, exchange best practices and encourage innovative thinking. Whether you are a mentor or a mentee, this scheme really offers a chance to expand your network and contribute to a collaborative learning environment. The overarching aims of the CUBO mentoring scheme are to really support the career development of professionals working in commercial services and campus services, enhance commercial and campus leadership potential and capability in the sector, and share best practice and encourage new ways of thinking and working, and to help mentors and mentees to extend and enrich their network and partnerships. It's a free service, as I keep saying over and over again, and it's part of our learning and development program. And what we'd like to do are when we match people for that relationship to be between 9 and 12 months. I don't know about you, but in my organisation, we have coaching at University of Kent, but sometimes it's really hard to find people within my organisation who actually understand the challenges of campus experience of what we need in our departments. So this is why this initiative was also put together, because everybody you speak to will be aware of the experiences that you will go through. So how do we find the mentors and the mentees? Well, finding the right mentor or mentee is crucial for a really successful experience, and we really need you to help us with that. We will facilitate this matching process by considering individuals' professional goals. So when you fill in that form, you need to be really clear. And sometimes you might say, I'm not actually sure what I want to do, but you might think maybe there's a project you've got coming up, or maybe there's a role you want to go for. And we will really try to match people with their individual professional goals, expertise, and mutual interests. And we strive to ensure compatibility so that both parties can gain valuable insight and engagement in a meaningful professional relationship. Once a match is established, mentoring can begin with a structured approach. So for the mentors, our CUBO mentors, we want experienced and knowledgeable campus and commercial services professional from our community. We would like you to volunteer your time to help others progress in their learning and career aspirations through one-to-one sessions. And those sessions can take place between 1 to 6 weeks. And in that time, you will offer focused guidance and support. But again, we've said 6 to 8 weeks, but if you felt you had capacity to do once a month, that is fine. But also 6 weeks to 8 weeks is also great as well. I've got different people I mentor, and some people it's once every 2 months because that's what they need. Being a CUBO mentor is a unique development opportunity. It will really strengthen your professional management capability. I've learned so much from the people I've mentored, as well as when I listen to myself, I think, why don't I sometimes do that more myself? So hearing someone come with their challenges can really help you. You can build greater change management readiness, support self-directed learning and development culture, and that's what we really want within CUBO, and we want to take that back into our organizations, but also share your valuable experience back to our community. I mean, a number of people on this call will have different experiences of restructures or maybe writing papers for investment, but some people have none of that experience and they might not get it in their organizations, they might not get the support, but actually you could speak to your mentor about how you can get that. So for anyone that's on this call that's thinking about being a mentor, and you might think, why should I be doing it? Please put yourself forward and we will guide you through it. Now for mentees, all CUBO members can apply to be a mentee. Your mentor, as I've said, will be very experienced, and I've talked about how often you will meet. But as a CUBO mentee, we'll expect you to want to expand your current knowledge of the HE commercial and campus experience. We want you to gain personal development and achieve a particular goal or objective in your career. You must be willing to commit to a one-to-one meeting for mentoring session for 9 to 12 months. And also those sessions will be online, or if you're close together, maybe if your mentor lives in the same city to you, you can have it face to face, but it's up to you and your mentor to do that. But this is the really important bit. We expect the mentees to really be prepared to drive the program, to really establish the goals that you want, to schedule the meetings and to set the agenda for those meetings. It is your session, so we really want you to drive that. And our most successful sessions or pairings are with the mentees that really think, sometimes I don't know really what I want to work on, but I'm going to make sure I show up and talk about my experience and where I want to go in my career. But also you need to be really receptive to feedback and be ready to hear it, the good and the bad. And you need to take responsibility for your own growth. Your mentor is not going to drag you along to these sessions, chase you if you don't show up. They're not going to do that. It's your session, it's your responsibility. Now, as I said, I'm a mentor to a number of people, but I've got loads of mentors myself, and I have them on WhatsApp, I've got them on Teams, I've got their email address, their personal number. I don't call them all the time, but I have various people, but I'm the one that drives that relationship. So here's some of the benefits of being a mentee. You'll increase your confidence and self-awareness. I 100% know I wouldn't be in the job I'm in now if it wasn't for the mentors that I've had at CUBO. There are no ways. When I went for this job, and I know that she won't mind me saying this, I did a dummy interview with Kirsty Woodall, who's the chair. And she literally grilled me of all the questions that I could potentially be asked, that when I went for my interview, it was a breeze. I'm not joking. It was just like the easiest interview because I had been grilled, pummeled by Kirsty. So that's the sort of relationship you could have. Also, as well, writing papers. I used to absolutely hate writing business cases. They're still not my favorite thing. But again, Joe Lancaster, and there are other people within our community as well who I've reached out to and said, could you help me and support me and maybe read this? And because of that, they've really built my confidence in that area. It will really help as a mentee, those sessions, to give you clear focus on your career development goals. They'll improve your technical and your soft skills. They'll expand your professional and personal network, to have your mentor in your back pocket if you need it. They'll develop your talent so that you can progress to the next level. As I've said, every job that I've had while I've been connected to CUBO has definitely supported that with the mentoring that I've received. And also increase your impact in your current role. I've seen a number of people that have gone through this program, and another course I will really want to plug as well is aspiring directors as well, where they've done those courses and you can see them stand up taller and we can see their careers progressed. And again, I've done aspiring directors, most of the board have, most of the regional leads have. It just does something to you to want to do more in the sector. And also, another benefit is that you'll find out information about how other universities do things. That's one of the real keys about the mentoring program, is that you'll be connected to someone who doesn't know your university and you might not know theirs, and you can find out things and maybe new ways of doing things. So you've heard about benefits, you've heard about why you should be a mentor and why I think it's a brilliant idea to put yourself forward to be a mentee, but how do they work? So the first thing that I would say is that you really need to watch the videos. So there is a mentor and a mentee video that you should really watch, because that will set out the expectations. That will be a form of training for the mentors as well. And for the mentees, it really gives you a real clear picture of how the scheme works. You should complete the mentor and mentee application form. And on that form, you will basically be able, again, as the mentee, to really talk about what you're looking for, but also from a mentor point of view, what your gifts are. And please don't be shy with your gifts. Don't be shy. Sometimes we see forms and we've had to go back and say, you know how to do this too, to point it out. And we're in a culture where people don't share their gifts or to want to talk about their gifts, but actually being a mentor, that's your time to say, I can give back, and this is what I can give back in. We'll contact the mentors and with prospective mentees, and we will set up a three-way introductory meeting. And it will be the mentor, the mentee that we've matched together, and CUBO. Now, for the mentors and the mentees, if you're matched with someone before you've even met the person and you think, oh, I don't know if this will work, you can quietly come to CUBO and have a conversation with that. You can also think, let me give it a go, because sometimes it's about perception as well. So again, if you see someone that you're matched with and you think, oh, I'm not sure, I would say to you, Sometimes the universe brings things to us to challenge us, which isn't a bad thing. It isn't a bad thing. But also, if you really think this isn't going to work for me, please come back to CUBO. But at that meeting anyway, you'll be talking about your expectations, your commitment, really driving home confidentiality, because that's a really, really big piece about it. And then also what we would suggest after that is that you have a chemistry session. So that session is where you actually meet and you talk, the first meeting. And it's really good to have that chemistry session because, again, not everybody gels, and it's okay. It's okay. You can come back to CUBO individually and say it. You'll have to mutually agree the mentoring relationship, really drive home confidentiality, conduct, calendar, when you're going to meet up, the frequency. But again, from the mentees, you will drive that. Obviously, if a mentee says, I want to meet you every Monday morning, the answer is going to be no. However, 6 to 8 weeks is basically the best time. But sometimes there might be a particular project where it turns to monthly. During the mentoring, we will check in. We'll make sure that you're okay. There'll be a midpoint session when we will do that. And then we'll have a final session to review time together. The other thing that we'll do also is to ask for a testimony, good or bad, to find out how it actually went. What we'd also really encourage is that after completing the programs, that you really update your professional profiles and indicate whether you are interested in future mentoring opportunities. Do you want to go round again? Do you want to be a mentor? We've had a number of people who take on 2 roles, which is a mentor and a mentee as well, because they could be different things that they want to do. So I'm just going to pause at this point because the next part I'm going to go to is being a CUBO mentor. So my question I'm going to ask is, does anybody have any questions at this point? No? Wow, I was really clear. Hey, surprises. Fantastic. So the next thing I'd like to do is to speak to Gordon Hodge, who's from the University of I can never say it. Strathclyde. Oh, I said it wrong.
Good.
Did I say it right?
You did.
Yay! So, can everybody see him? I can't see you. Well, everyone else
I promise I'm here.
can. That is fab. So I'll just do a bit of my introduction. So being a mentor is a deeply rewarding experience, and I'll be asking Gordon just some questions to really share his experience with us and the impact that mentoring has had on him. So Gordon,
240, right?
can you just give us a bit of a flavour of your experience of being a mentor?
Yeah. So I've had mentees in both the programs that have run so far. Second time round, I didn't realise I was getting one till we had our meeting. But that was fine actually in the end, because actually the 2 experiences were quite different. What the individuals wanted and needed were slightly different. Well, no, they were completely different things actually, and they were individuals at different points in their careers. I have to say I've really enjoyed it because, in part because it is really only kind of every 6 weeks, depending on the relationship that you have with your mentee. You can have really good conversations. So the sessions would tend to be between an hour and 90 minutes. And you can have really good conversations that kind of spark things in your mind as well. And then I'm quite lucky that with both of the relationships that I had, they were good enough that I remembered when I started talking to the person again. Like when I started, I was taking like loads of notes and trying to remember and stuff. And then as I went through the relationships, I stopped trying to do that because it felt like it was getting in the way. But both experiences have been different, but I would say that they've both been really positive, and I feel like I've got as much out. Well, they might not have got anything out of it, but I got stuff out of it.
No, we've had only positive feedback for you, Gordon. They thought you were great. So how did you approach building a strong relationship with your mentee? And are there any strategies that you could recommend that work best for fostering trust and engagement?
So I would say I was pleased that you mentioned the videos and the introductory meeting because although I had done a coaching and mentoring course here. So I knew kind of the structure, but it was really helpful to watch the videos. It was really helpful to have the meeting in advance. Um, and yeah, I liked the sense that so there's the introductory call, and then the initial meeting is a chemistry meeting. And that was just much more, yeah, it was really helpful. And I suppose the easiest thing to do is to follow their lead. Something that I need to remind myself of a lot is to listen, not just to talk all the time, because obviously the temptation when you're coaching and mentoring people is to give them answers, and that's not what you're there to do. You're there to listen and help people find their own answers. And yeah, so I guess just really being open and honest about my own experiences and listening to them, and then checking in and saying, it sounds like this is the kind of thing that you are looking to get from this. Am I right? And then just organic, just following their lead. And we always had good conversations. We never struggled for things to say. So I guess we got the relationships right.
Wow. And what challenges did you encounter while mentoring? And
I
how
would
did you
say,
I was going to say, how did you overcome them as well? So not just the challenges, how you overcome them, or did you?
no, not really. So the first relationship that I had, that was just really natural, and we agreed between us that 6 weeks was the right frequency. And in the initial meeting, we kind of agreed that there were maybe like 3 or 4 headings of things that my mentee wanted to talk about, and that really that's as structured as it got when we met. I would try to remember, right, we've talked about this bit now, so we should talk about this bit, but sometimes it just did it kind of naturally. With the other mentee, as it turned out, they changed jobs, and I think one of the reasons that they were looking for a mentor was because they had got as far as they were going to go in the organization that they were in, and were wondering what their next move might be. Was it to stay where they were and look for an opportunity, or was it to go somewhere else? Which is obviously taking a bit of a leap into the unknown. And that meant that there was a big gap between when we were introduced and then when we actually met. And there were a couple of cancellations, and that did make me go, I am giving my time. But actually, in the end, we did strike up a relationship. And I would say that that was the only thing, was just a change in the mentee's circumstances meant that they weren't as contactable and they weren't in that headspace for a while. But once they were, it worked perfectly well.
Fab. I've had that before in mentoring where I thought there was going to be a meeting and the person didn't show up. And you can take it personal, you can, because you think, what, have I done something? Sometimes it's work or etc. But I do think for the mentees, it's really really trying your best not to miss those meetings. So again, I would also recommend talking to your boss that you're doing this so that they're aware, they can support. But sometimes they might just feel like, I just don't need the mentoring sessions anymore. Again, I would encourage everyone to speak to their mentor on CUBO just to let them know if that is the case. So can you share a moment or a success story where you saw some growth, progress in your mentee, something that you're proud of?
I think that with both, um, encouraging them, so being able to listen to the situation that they're in, and in some situations being able to listen to the way that they dealt with it, where they've got a bit of uncertainty about whether they did the right thing or whether it's really an issue, whether they're, blowing it up out of proportion, and just encouraging them to reflect on what they did and see that they did the absolute best that they could in the situation. In some cases, that it is the situation that's ridiculous, it's not them. But my first mentee, and I'm not taking all the credit for this at all, is in the middle of doing a degree apprenticeship. Um, and I'm not sure that it was necessarily to do with anything specifically that I said, but I would hope that the fact that in the 6 months prior to them getting a place on that degree apprenticeship, they were able to have these conversations that perhaps just gave them more of a sense of what their strengths are, where their future might lie, what their leadership abilities might be, and have the confidence to apply for that. Now, they were very well supported by their line manager as well. But I would hope that mentoring played a part in that. And I think as well, the first part of that, I think, wasn't easy for them, because I think for those of us who have gone back to do a bit of learning where there is academic rigour applied, which is quite different to the way that we have to write and report things on a day-to-day basis in our businesses, that's really intimidating, and it takes a lot of time, and you tend to get quite a lot of feedback going, no, you have to answer the question in this very specific way or you won't get the marks. And that was a lot for them to take on board, as well as their job, as well as their family life. But I hope that with the opportunity to talk, just for them to talk about what their experience was and what they found challenging about it, helped them to say, well, I am going to get through this difficult bit now, and I'm going to carry on doing it again. And I know that they can, do it, and I know that they will get to the other end, and that they will take the right learning from it, whether or not it's what the course actually teaches them that is what they take from it, or whether it's something about themselves that they take for it. Either way, it's going to take them forward and help them think about what it is they want to do next.
And Gordon, I'm going to say something. I'm going to put something out there. You were part of that success, because I believe if someone has an additional hour, 90 minutes with a mentor, that's a form of cheerleading. That's like 90 minutes of positivity that they didn't have before. That's on top of their boss's positivity. So I'm going to give you that. And yes,
Thank you.
You did support them to do it, because I just think giving someone opportunity outside of their workplace with someone else to hear, you can do it, this is my experience, this is what I've done, I think it does all seep in. It's all good stuff, it's all the
I'm
good
slightly
stuff.
worried that my week has peaked at 11:30 on a Monday morning, but thank you, I'll take that.
It's good stuff. Tell your boss you can go home now. I've done all the good stuff. I've done it. Melissa says. So here's another one for you. And how has being a mentor impacted you? Your own professional development, your leadership skills?
I think that anything you can do that encourages you to lift your head from the desk, to shut the laptop, just to do something different than what you do on a day-to-day basis, and look up and look forward and look out is always a good thing to do. And I think the moment that you need to do it is the very moment when you say, I don't have time for this. That's the moment where you have to put it to the top of your list and say, that is your priority. You have to do that, because now you can't see the wood for the trees. So like other opportunities, like going to a conference or going to try and join a new network that you haven't been a part of before, just that opportunity to take stock, and to, as you're talking to your mentee about their experience, reflecting on your own experiences in the past and how you dealt with that, and did that happen to you, or has it not happened to you and you don't know how you would deal with it. I think sometimes it's positive affirmation, because you're just responding to something, you're like, oh God, I don't know. And then getting their response going, no, I never thought of it that way. And realizing that you can be that person. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something structured and out of a textbook. It can be something that is like instinctive, and it can be your intuition just going, this is what I think you should do. No, you can't say, don't say that to a mentee, but this is what it seems like to me. As I said before, I'm terribly guilty of wanting to speak before a thought disappears from my head and not listening properly. And I have genuinely tried to listen more and to be led by my mentees. And I just think I've met two new people who I might have met otherwise, but I've got a relationship with them that I probably wouldn't have had if I bumped into them at the summer conference or whatever. And in general, it's got me more involved in CUBO, so I look more at the emails that come in. I think just in terms of building a network and doing it in a really kind of organic, authentic way.
Thank you. Thanks for putting yourself forward. So there are some people on this call who would like to be mentors themselves. So what advice would you give to a new mentor starting? Please do not say, don't do it. You're not allowed to say that. What advice would you give them that can maximize their effectiveness? And also, you've talked about the benefits, what the benefits have been for you, but yeah, just how could you set them up for success?
I would say don't worry that you don't have time, because you do have time. Because there were a number of, so we would put the calls, we always put the next call in before we got to the end of the call, so it's there for your diary for 4 to 6 or even 8 weeks or whatever. And I would completely forget about it and then get to it and go, Christ. Like in the middle of everything else that I'm dealing with on the day to day, I can't do this today, but actually I could, because I shut myself in a room and I did that for 90 minutes and I didn't look at my emails and I didn't look at my phone. I did that. So you do have time to do it, and it is really valuable, and you're helping somebody else, hopefully. But you're also helping yourself, you're developing yourself. The training videos are really helpful, and the other materials that you give us in advance. And so what I would say is do a bit of prep. So I did a lot of prep about all the things we were supposed to do and all the things we were going to talk about. And I filled 2 pages in my book and spent a bit of time flipping back and forward. And in the end, I was just led by the mentee and I was led by the conversation. And I did take some notes. I was very mindful of confidentiality, but really I was just taking notes. Because when we spoke again, I just wanted to remember broadly what the contexts were, and I wanted to remember who the personalities were in the stories and what they did and stuff. But actually, after 2 or 3 meetings, I kind of remembered who they were, or after my mentee had spoken for kind of 10 or 15 minutes, I started to understand who the characters were. So I guess use the structure that's there. But the important thing is that the relationship is useful to the mentee and is useful to you. So don't be the relationship and what they and you get out of it, you will determine between the two of you. And don't necessarily get caught up in what the scheme is supposed to deliver.
Fab. And so the last question is, looking ahead, what improvements or enhancements would you suggest for the mentoring program? Because I think it's always best to be open and transparent. Is there anything that we could do better, that just anything that you think would be helpful for you or the mentees? Any enhancements?
I don't really think so. As I said, I was already familiar with mentoring before I put myself forwards. But you did give us access to that content before we started to engage in the actual relationship with the mentee. And it was helpful, and there was the opportunity to check in, which I don't like in neither case that we didn't take, because we felt like we didn't need it. We were getting on perfectly well. We didn't need any support. I suppose perhaps just if there are resources that are likely to be useful generally to mentors and mentees, just signposting that to to the people who are in that group, whether they're a mentor or a mentee, and really just encouraging people to be a part of it as mentors and mentees, because as I say, it is building that network at different levels within CUBO, of people who have things in common and who otherwise maybe don't have things in common or wouldn't meet otherwise. But it's building your own network, but also it's building the CUBO network, and just meaning that it's more likely to be more robust and more helpful for everyone who's part of it.
Gosh, that was a good saying there. Tamsin, get that for the website. That was fab. Because also I do think it's needed for the sector. We're in such financial crisis. There is so much going on. It can feel really doom and gloom, but actually, if we all band together and share our experiences, it'll just make it a whole lot easier. So I'm like you, Gordon. I do believe my mum always said to me, whenever you get into a job, never pull the ladder up, look behind you. And I think mentoring is about looking down, and I hate that down, but you get my gist of helping people to get up with you, and getting them to that level so they can push you off, something like that. But it's about supporting our community, and we have a fantastic community. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Gordon? Is there anything in the chat? Just in case there was anything. No, nothing in the chat. Any questions? And it doesn't matter if there isn't any questions, because that was a wonderful, wonderful, I was going to say interview, like I think I'm Oprah, but a wonderful chat. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I do know that you have to go at a certain point, so it's up to you to go. Thank you. Right, so now we're going to speak to Amy. So Amy's from the University of Salford. And one of the points that Amy will be talking to us about is her role as a mentee. And as I've said, mentees gain an incredible opportunity to learn from experienced professionals, enhance their career prospects, and also build strong industry connections. As I've said, a lot of my mentees, I've had them for years. They tried to get away and they can't. We're locked in. And having a mentor can provide clarity, motivation. You could end up doing an apprenticeship degree and really also have a strategic approach to professional growth. So Amy, again, I have some questions for Amy, and she'll talk to us about how the mentoring experience has shaped her career. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Melissa. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So my first question for you is, how has the CUBO mentoring scheme influenced your career development and your career?
So I applied for the mentoring scheme just after changing roles. In fact, I didn't just change roles. I actually changed organisations and moved 250 miles away. So I had been at the University of Bristol for about 7.5 years. And then in October 2023, I moved to the University of Salford. And on paper, the area was quite similar, student accommodation, which is what I've specialised in for the last few years. But in reality, the two institutions couldn't be more different from each other. And the teams, the teams that I've been working in, again, really, really different. So I very acutely remember filling in my application form to be a mentee, and much of it was about, oh my God, I've just done this move and I feel really out of my depth isn't quite the right phrase, because it was more than that. It was just, it's so different. And I was quite shocked by that. I was quite shocked to just kind of realize that all the things I thought I knew were suddenly being threatened and challenged. And, the initial kind of knock to my confidence was quite scary. I'd gone from feeling very confident and credible and being well known and kind of having people kind of know to come to me to get the answers to things, to suddenly not having that. And so it kind of really kind of cast a lot of doubt on myself, which was quite difficult, as I'm sure you can imagine. So yeah, a lot of my motivation for wanting to have a mentor was to kind of support me through that transition, and that really, that did really help, and that's definitely what I needed at that point. So I made this quite significant career move, which I had made independently of meeting my mentor, but actually it was them that really kind of helped me kind of realize, you've got this, and kind of helped me get through that and make a success of it.
So what new skills or competencies have you gained, or do you believe you've gained as a result of your mentoring experience?
I think the main one that comes to mind is resilience, because I think, looking back, I probably wouldn't have said this at the time, but I think I probably wasn't feeling that resilient, because I'd had this kind of this culture shock and this bit of a confidence knock, and I think it started to make me perceive things differently. So, as I say, it was going from kind of being known and being well known somewhere to being new, not even having any friends outside of work because I'd moved, away from the place I'd lived. You still start to question your ability to kind of get on with people in a way, because I think as I was having to kind of convince people to come round to my way of thinking, rather than people just accepting that's how we would do things. So all really, really useful lessons. But I think that it taught me a lot about resilience, and the fact that actually, yeah, it's not very nice when people don't agree with you straight away, but it's also quite normal, and it's something that we all have to experience. And actually, when I kind of started to talk about it and look at it, I realized it wasn't every day. It wasn't even every week. It was maybe just a few times when I wasn't expecting it. And that was starting to make me think, oh God, you know, I've nobody likes me, and they don't think I'm any good at my job. And all of those really unhelpful thoughts that sometimes attack us all, usually at 3 a.m. But it just helped to kind of talk about it and realize actually that wasn't the full picture. So yeah, I started to recognize that my resilience had got a bit low, and so actually being able to notice that kind of overcoming those challenges and getting through some of those challenges started to help me build it back up and get better at noticing when I was having an emotional response to things, or maybe when I was assuming something, and starting to flip that and actually assume positive intent, and not necessarily expect that there was going to be resistance, because as I say, there wasn't necessarily.
And can I say thank you so much for sharing that example, because I think a lot of the time we have our careers and we are so good at giving other people support. So I would have probably come to you, Amy, and said, I've started this new job, and you would have said, well, you know, you would have said all of those things to me. But when it's yourself, it is always good to have a mentor, someone that you can do that reflective piece of work with. I don't care what your job is. You could be a VC, even the VC will need a mentor. So I think it's really helpful if anyone's on there thinking, oh, how can mentor, how could I actually want to be a mentor, I wouldn't mind having a mentee. You can do both. You can do both. Don't feel like you have to do one or the other, because as I said, I am a mentor, but I am a mentee to many people as well, for different things. So yeah, I'd really love you for you to say that, because I know for a fact that you're very experienced. If you were advising someone, probably what your mentor would have said to you is what you would have said to them. But when it's you and you're going through it, it does feel very much you're in the weeds, isn't it? You can't see it. So having that session for an hour really gives you someone to say, actually peek through and say, you're okay. You're okay. So how has being part of a mentoring scheme expanded your professional network or provided you with valuable sector insight?
Well, my mentor's been brilliant at encouraging me to put myself out there and meet people and just benefit from the amazing network that we have within HE as a sector. You know, before I had this mentoring experience, I don't think I really looked outside of my organisation, and it just kind of really opened my eyes to this huge network of people and expertise that's out there. And it was a gradual thing. You know, he told me about the summer conference in Belfast quite early on, and was really encouraging me to go. And I remember at the time being a bit like, oh, that's a bit over the top, isn't it? Like, I was just a bit like, really, me? What? Like, you know, I don't really know. It sounds a bit silly now, but I just think I think it helped. It helped a lot that he said that, because it made me actually think, well, why not me? You know, like, you know, who else is it for? It's, you know, it's for everyone. So he did such a lot to make me realize actually that, yeah, it is for me, and it's up to you. You know, it's optional, but if you opt in, then there's so much to gain from that. And so, yeah, with a bit of encouragement, I did book my place. I must admit, between us, I am not a great flyer. I've never flown anywhere on my own even. So all of it was so scary for me, which probably sounds a bit silly, but I was very much out of my comfort zone. I knew a few people, but not very many. But I just went out of my way to just speak to as many people as I possibly could. And I came away with tons of connections on LinkedIn, tons of people that I've since been in touch with and kind of picked their brains. And sometimes they've come and picked my brain, which feels great as well. And it just really kind of gave me a lot of confidence to expand my network and realize that I don't have to just rely on the people within my own organisation who are, you know, for the record, are lovely people, but just that actually there's a huge network out there that we're all part of. So it's really, really helped with that.
Yeah, and just to be clear, mentoring isn't, we haven't created this mentoring because the mentoring that you have in your organization isn't great or the people isn't great. This is an additional thing that you can access. So it's really lovely to hear that. And I think one of the things that I think is quite special about our mentoring is I say it's like HR have their conferences, that's their people. This is CUBO is for commercial services and estates people. And it's really sometimes lovely to speak to someone where you don't need to explain how student numbers has affected accommodation. You don't need to explain how COVID at the time affected language schools from coming over in groups. You know, we get it. And so we can kind of move to the next level of how we're going to fix it. So that's why I really love our conferences and the mentoring and everything that we do. So I feel you've kind of answered this question when you talked about the fact that your mentor really helped you when you started this new role. But just again, did you have an example that you could share of how your mentor helped you navigate a professional challenge or made an important career decision?
Well, I do have an example, but it does actually contradict some of what Gordon was saying. So apologies, Gordon,
Okay.
because I do think you made an excellent point about not just solutionizing and jumping in with answers and allowing the mentee to kind of come to their own conclusions. But this example was an occasion where I really, I think my mentor was probably right to actually give me some advice. So I had a really sensitive situation, something I'd not come across before, and there was a lot of risk involved. And I had some ideas about what I might do, but I really didn't want to get it wrong because it could have had just such significant consequences. And it was just really important that I approached it in the right way. The timing was great because I actually had a call with my mentor that afternoon, and he is really highly experienced, really knowledgeable. He's been a senior leader in campus services at a university for I think like 30 years or something. He's fantastic. Really knows his stuff. And I sort of talked through the situation, and he just told me, I would recommend you do this, gave me his advice, explained why. And I sort of had a few questions and I thought, oh, what about this? And, you know, he sort of talked me through the rationale. And that really helped me to resolve the immediate issue, but also he advised me on how to safeguard against future repercussions from the situation as well. And I think that wasn't what all of our sessions were like. Most of the time it was more of a coaching style, but I think this example kind of highlights the difference sometimes between mentoring and between coaching, because you know, I think there's a lot to be gained from having a coaching style, and I try to coach others because I think you learn so much when people can ask you questions to help you arrive at your own conclusions. But sometimes when the stakes are really high, it's just so important to have someone that you can trust who can advise you on the right thing to do, and he was that person that day, so that was a big help.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. You will naturally coach people, and that's what I believe Gordon was saying. You naturally, I am very much like Gordon. I'm worse in I want to tell people before they've even said what they want to say, what they're going to say. However, the mentoring is about sharing experience. It's like sharing the experience of something, and really that's a really good example of you had an issue, how would you deal with it? And also, it doesn't mean you would have dealt with it that way. Your mentor could say something and you think, actually, no, but at least you've got another perspective on a situation that you can refer to. So that's a really interesting one. I do also feel, though, that as Gordon said, it is also about letting you, if the person just came with questions all the time, how would you deal with that? And how would you deal with this? Then that in itself as well isn't growth, because actually that person, as a mentor, you should be trying to get them to develop how would you think of dealing with it as well. So it's to get that right balance. But if there's risk involved, yeah, you want to hear their experience on that. So again, the next one is, how do you feel? Do you feel more confident in your professional abilities and leadership potential? I believe from when I've met you and spoken to you again, you do seem like you're standing taller, but how do you feel? Do you feel that your leadership potential has grown from since participating in the scheme?
Yeah, I think so. And I've said the word confidence a lot myself in a lot of my answers. That was the real key thing for me, that, you know, a lot of my motivation for applying for the mentoring scheme was that sense of needing to build my confidence back up. So absolutely, I feel more confident as a result, and really kind of feel that that has made a huge difference in terms of realizing my leadership potential. I think, you know, I kind of I had felt, you know, quite confident in my leadership. So I think I've kind of regained that, but also benefited from the new perspectives that this experience has kind of taught me, and some of the challenges have taught me, and actually that you know, those initial challenges and where it has felt difficult to get colleagues on board, for example, straight away, that really wasn't necessarily that I was doing anything wrong. It wasn't even that things were going wrong. It was just quite normal, and actually that is a normal part of leadership. And you know, there's different ways of handling it, and there are different outcomes. But it just kind of, I think it's given me a more multi-dimensional view of it. This, I don't quite know how to say this, how to explain it, but I think previously when I'd been quite confident in my leadership, I wonder if you know, my role was certainly challenging at Bristol. There were a number of challenges, but I think in many ways I had it easier because I'd been there quite a long time, and I had people around me who didn't question my my role, and didn't question kind of my decisions, because I was kind of just part of the furniture. And I think, you know, not to do myself down, I think that I did a good job, but I possibly wasn't exposed to some of the challenges that you can get when you have a number of people who are facing, you know, decisions. So actually, I now feel grateful to have had some of those experiences, because it has taught me that I have the skills to overcome it. It was just, yeah, a bit of a shock to the system initially.
Yeah, and it's great that, and I understand that as I started at Kent in 2022, and it is a shock. You're right. When you say something you said in your previous organization, and in the previous organization, you're like, yeah, do it. And then you go to a new place and they're like, nah, I'm not sure. You're like, what do you mean, no? It can be unnerving. It can make you feel like you're starting again and you have to prove yourself. So to have a mentor be your champion saying you are right, I think that's fabulous. So the last question for you is, has this mentoring experience changed your career goals? You know, your ideas of what leadership is within HEI? And I suppose I do want to ask that question as well. Is there any, I feel like I'm asking you 5 questions in one, but what improvements or enhancements from a mentee point of view would you like to give?
Yeah, I think so it's definitely, the experience has definitely made me realize that HE is a huge network, as I've said, and there are so many amazing people within it, so many interesting and varied roles. So it's yeah, it's that sense of not being limited necessarily by the particular organization or the particular area of expertise that I'm in at the moment. And even though, you know, I've worked in student accommodation for a number of years, and I enjoy it and I'm good at it, but I've realised the world very much is my oyster, and there's loads of directions to go in, and different experiences to have, and most importantly, loads of people that will support me to get there, and that want to see each other succeed. So I think it's kind of just expanded my view a bit. And then in terms of improvements, really difficult to think of anything for the program itself, because I have had a really positive experience. But I think one thing is quite a broad thing that isn't directly about improving the program, but I think would just be an improvement in general, is just for people to be just talk a little bit more about growth and development in the context of their own growth and development, you know. So I've sort of started to do this myself, partly because I'm interested in it, but also I just think it sets such a good impression if you've got someone, particularly in a management or leadership position, who's talking about having a mentor, or talking about reflecting on a decision they've made or an experience they've learned from, and really like having the authenticity and the courage to actually say, you know, show that vulnerability, and to kind of talk about the importance of personal development and growth and their own learning about themselves. And I just think to model that to other people is so powerful, and not everyone will feel comfortable to do it, and that's fine, obviously. But I think those that feel that they might be comfortable, I think it would be great if we all just did it a bit more to really show that those qualities are really valued.
I had to go to my reactions because I 100% agree to that. I think leadership is changing in the sector. I do think so. And I think one of the changes is about being a lot more open about vulnerabilities. And I totally agree with you. Learning and development, having a mentor at all levels should be talked about, asking for support, asking for difference of opinion, diversity of thought. So I 100% agree. And if that's one thing that we could try and take away at CUBO, we will. I think one of the things that's is with the program is I've said once, I think it'd be a really good idea to have the mentors on the website, and I'm going to really who the mentors are. But then one of the things that has been discussed, and I totally get it, is then people will maybe just want to pick one or two, and suppose someone else isn't picked, you know. So that's that, and I get that too, you know. And then about the mentee, some people actually want to do it quite quietly. They don't want to be in the spotlight. They don't want people to feel like they need help. So, but I think you're right. If people who are comfortable in talking about it should talk up. So thank you so much for your answering my questions. And does anybody have any questions for Amy? No? Well, both of them have said to me that if anybody wants to contact them, you can to speak about it. So please go through to CUBO, and then we'll get you all in touch. So thank you. I will move on now with the next part. Thank you both. Right, so going back to technology. Let's see if this is going to work again, people. I know I just shared it, but on my screen, showing something else. So great. Can we all see that? Fab. So setting up for success, as we've spoken about, and Gordon and Amy have been really lovely in really just confirming again, it's all about confidentiality during and after the mentoring relationship, creating trust, an open and honest dialogue. The conduct should be discussing expectations, sending focused questions in advance. That's something as a mentor you can choose to do, but also as a mentee, you might say, you know, these are the things that I really want to focus on, so that your mentor can have a chance to really, review that, have a moment to think about how they're going to approach that. Agree on how to check in on how the mentoring's going. So for me, I have people I've mentored where I'll just send them a quick email. To some other people, we've got into that where I won't send anything. I don't do check-ins. They're fine to say, I'll come to you. And then the calendar, this part is really about agreeing how often. As I've said, 6 to 8 weeks, I think is the sweet spot, but some people might want a monthly, and you might be happy with a monthly as a mentor. As a mentee, if you want 6 to 8 weeks and your mentor saying, oh, I really want to meet you monthly, you can say, no, 6 to 8 weeks is fine for me. Really, the mentee should drive it. But again, if your mentor can't do monthly, because of workload, that has to also be appreciated. And also identifying if it's practical to meet up or is it better to do it online. I've done all my chats online, but that's because a lot of the people I've been paired with have been all around the country. However, we will meet up at a conference. We will meet up at any sort of CUBO event, or if I'm visiting, if I'm able to go out and visit them, I will. So what's really important for a mentee, and these skills, again, watch the video, it really goes through it in there, but this is just like high level, is you really need to take the initiative to drive the process. The real success of a mentoring relationship depends on the mentee's willingness to drive the conversation and seek out advice. Be prepared. Be prepared for each session by coming with questions or topics or challenges that you want to discuss, because this really demonstrates a commitment. And also, by the way, it's not a commitment to the session, it's a commitment to yourself. It's a commitment that you're going to make the most of that time. I like to think of when I have mentoring sessions, I'm draining that person's brain of experience. So really come with things to talk about. Be open-minded and willing to explore different perspectives. Growth, it often comes from stepping outside your comfort zone. And we heard that really lovely from Amy, who said that. Actively listen and apply feedback. Effective mentoring relationships are built on constructive discussions and a willingness to implement learning. Follow through on agreed tasks and reflect on key takeaways. If you're a mentor and you agree that you're going to do something and you turn up at your next meeting and you haven't done it, the mentor might be like, oh gosh, but actually the person that you've let down is yourself. And I will say that. But again, I understand about workload, I understand about time. Try and really carve out time for yourself to make sure you can get those tasks done, because they're in your best interests. Really respect your mentor's time, and the same goes for mentors and mentees, but respect each other's time by being punctual, prepared, and professional. Gosh, it's the 3 Ps. A well-structured relationship really benefits from both parties really respecting one another. It's understandable that you might be late. Just let each other know, but really try to be punctual. And the main thing is take ownership of your career development. And we've said this time and time again, but the mentors are there to guide. They're not there to drive your relationship. The mentee should be proactive in setting goals, taking actionable steps towards achieving them. And here's some best practice skills for mentors. So you really want to manage the process. You really want to measure the challenge and support. Sorry, it's all the M's. Manage the process, measure the challenge, and maintain the support. And again, please watch for mentors. Please watch the video. But really, to be a successful mentor, you need active listening, as Gordon said, and providing thoughtful experience guidance. Your guidance that you give them shouldn't be, I think, well, it can be, I think, but really it should be what I've done, what I've tried, really give them some real life examples. Encouraging mentees to think critically and develop problem solving skills. So again, it's that kind of getting people to think for themselves. Sharing personal career experiences while allowing mentees to find their own path. When I work with someone, I say, this is what I've done. Would I have done it differently? Yes, I would have done this. But also it's doing it in their own style. Providing constructive feedback and fostering a really supportive learning environment. No mentee should feel like they're being told off. No one should feel like they've done something wrong, even if they didn't do the task. It's about being supportive and maybe finding out why they didn't do it or why they didn't feel moved to do it. Or maybe they didn't have the time and giving them more time. Demonstrate patience and adaptability to meet with the needs of the mentee. And that's especially in the climate that we're in now. We're all in challenging times in our institutions. So really find out the environment that that mentee is in, the relationships they have, what their challenges are, because that will also help you in supporting them. So actually, before I go on to the feedback, I did want to talk a bit about the mentoring and the coaching and the key differences, because while mentoring and coaching are both valuable and they're both great developmental tools, there is a distinct difference. The mentoring that we've set up is typically, it's a long-term relationship. So we're saying 9 to 12 months, where experienced professionals provide career guidance based on their personal experiences and expertise. And coaching is more structured and goal oriented, and it's often focused on developing specific skills over a shorter period. The mentors in this scheme, we want our professionals to share insights and lessons from their own careers, whereas a coach uses questioning techniques and helps individuals arrive at their own solution. So what I'm really trying to focus here on is this is about you sharing your knowledge. Yes, you can ask a question, that's fine, but it's about sharing your experience, because the reason why we put this scheme together is because there are a number of really experienced people in CUBO who basically have a lot of knowledge, and we want to share that. By the way, experience isn't about how many years you've been in a job, or if you've been working in HEI for 10 years or 30 years. That's not what it is. You could be an accommodation manager that wants to move into a head of accommodation role, and your mentor is someone that's been in a head of accommodation role 2 years, but they are someone who knows what it feels like to do that transition from accommodation manager to head of accommodation. Again, a lot of the people that I go to as mentors, I basically try and focus on one thing. I'll say, what is the thing you're great at? So it could be change management, it could be writing papers. If someone that writes papers, they don't necessarily have to be from campus experience world. So what I'm trying to say is your mentor, it's really about draining their brain for their experience, really finding out more than the coaching element. So, cohort feedback. So we're coming to the end of this session, and I'll open up for if there's any questions, but I really wanted to focus on the fact that we've had some really great feedback. People have seen CUBO as a really trusted brand. They understand that the sessions, they felt that it was really confidential. They felt that as a mentor, they were paying it forward, that they really loved having the focus just as on them as individuals. And one mentor shared how the experience really allowed them to form a strong rapport, and they felt that they were able to provide meaningful guidance. And a mentee expressed how the program gave them the confidence and also connections to further their career. And here you'll see that there's more things that have been written, but another participant really highlighted that the process was a two-way learning experience, where both the mentor and also the mentee gained fresh perspective and personal growth. And I think that's generally how I feel, which is why I'm committed for most of my career onwards to always mentor, because I feel it's my responsibility to give back. So the mentoring scheme will start early 2025. That was meant to say. That's something I've missed out on this presentation. And also the applications for 2025 will also be available soon. So really, does anybody have any questions? Anything they wish to ask? And that silence tells me that I've stunned you into silence and you are amazed by this round table. So thank you for everyone for coming today. I hope that you'll invest in yourself and you will really focus on using this scheme that is free for us to match you with someone in the sector up and down the country to support you in your career. Don't miss out on it. I have to tell you, and I'll say it time and time again, I would not be where I am today and where I want to go in the future without mentoring, and I will always use this scheme. The CUBO team are waiting for your applications. Look at Tamsin. Tamsin's waiting for them to fly in so we can start our matching. So please, when that application goes on, we will make sure that everyone that came to this group and also the whole of our membership get notification of that via email. But also think about it within your teams. There are 20 people on this call now, about 30 people signed up, I think 30, 35. So people watch the videos, but also think about your team as well, because there could be people you're managing or people that are in your team that you think, do you know something, they could do with this. There is something lovely about getting a mentor that's in another organization that don't know the players in your organization. It really does feel very confidential, and it is a confidential scheme. So I'm going to give you 20 minutes back. Have a fabulous day. Thank you again to Gordon, to Amy. Thank you for Tamsin for helping facilitate this session, and hope to see many of you on the scheme or put yourselves forward because it is really brilliant. Take care.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, Lauren McLean. And stop recording.